Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Guys, greetings to you all. Actually, I just want to make a very short and precise video here. But Malam Falcam Moile loud and clear, please, before I actually go ahead. Please, if you guys can hear me loud and clear, please let me know. Let somebody please write yes, please. Nalka Moy loud and clear, please. Let somebody tell me yes, you're okay. I just want to address a quick issue me along ko all of tanang sainteng, or at least ntaba moy kan sainteng, which is very, very concerning, and I feel like, you know, it needs to be talked about, and at least to put some sense into, you know, some people's head. All right. Thank you, Keba. Thank you. So, guys, like I said, this is going to be a quick one because I'm not even prepared to be live right now. But yeah, some issues need to be addressed, you know, immediately, and you know, as they comes in. Basically, mimu issue tidara wala mnyentiko we are getting information school police all actually invited Lawyer Borry Touray for questioning. Eko police all wole UDP la Lawyer Borry Touray, and Lawyer Borry Touray nimi malon wole mu UDP la lawyer Timi Alonko. In fact, he contested for the flag bearership together with Honorable Amadou Sane. Namare itol move fulo aning hechi dawo itol tata femkod at the final stage. Itol mo sabol tata at the final stage. So I know most of you will know Lawyer Borry Touray. So Lawyer Borry Touray eko police oli wole kupande for questioning. But now la famim fola jangba fola Adama Barole and nyin sedung Adama tulokon. Because follow. Adama ay min fontolia wala munyentiko. Adama ko ate 40 le. Yaya jama 40. Gambianol 40. De oda de nga fujandi. Nko Adama ite la karamode malla wala malla ite 40. Ya jamme nta wata fola no. But nga millon fo nga long wala munyentiko Gambianol 40 ya jamme la maralo konole. I 40 munela je wala mnyentiko ya jamme la ke dictatoti ala ke tyrannoti in that country o sunta Gambianol fon lela, because ndol fon le o chance di ya jamme la tay mo mina man dampa ngosoto nga bula fay dampa ngosoto anata ketan kunto dictatoti ay tilimbalia ay na molfa ay dol tocho ay dol disappear, you name it. So Gambianol fon le o chance di ya jamme la fo ya jamme keta aketa minti aketa woti aketa kunto tyrannoti aketa mol kunto dictatoti, a very terrible dictator for that matter. Adama Gambianol 40 wotole nita ma wolong nsa ko ndema bi Gambianol 40 wotole ite presidentina la Gambia kote ke Gambianol le o chance di la minna yeta domani fo ke mol kunto tyrannoti. If you think ite be Lawyer Borry Touray threatening lale or ba intimidate lale for calling him questioning with your IGP, your so-called IGP, who is not even Gambia's IGP, but NPP la IGP and your IGP. Because he is not serving the Gambia. He is serving your interest and the interest of your political party called the NPP. Now, Adama, Lawyer Borry Touray man fem fo ala diamo kono min jarata ka commande for questioning. I mean for wala mnyentiko ita Adama ita ni Gambia dingol d'accord tako ibeta na 3 years lala. Wo 3 years inata yake 5 years ti. Je, fo itala ba fudu dan tolti. o 3 years fana ko imurta ko take ya ka 10 years ti foytala ba fudu dan tolti o mur imurta ko take o 10 years ni ko say ba kala 15 years ti foytala ba fudu dan tolti wala foytala siatan tolti o banko kamba andum Lawyer Borry Touray la ñon kuma kan be mu tonya ke solde ala ñon kuma kan be kuma tije mi yalon ko e ba fala ka e nenne kuma tije mi yalon ko e ba fala ka kuma la fa manyana ka ben fo adama ni ñanta mo kuma la kumandila ko exonena ni tara mansa kunda through your IGP na to ñanta mo kumandila ko exonena muna tinnal man Sidi Njay kumandi ko exonena to mo minna Sidi Njay ko ate UDP ko le lo min yalon ko de a militia min yalon ko joramal le sike ka finti sate o kono ka mol attack mo manyana kumandila ko exonena min tambita Sidi Njay la je ite mol lom banko kan o min Sidi Njay min fo woto do you know the you know the danger of that statement wala ñenti ko mollebe banko ka min yalon ko jorantiol le mollebe banko ka min yalon ko criminal le ikata mol kan ka sapi mol kan momi yewol long momi yewol suute mol kono munati no mon police ol commande o mol kama oto mari ñande commande la fo questioning baral ma Sidi Njay commande questioning demba sabali lota janna ko ita ya adama barola ko natara ko itala reaction jarate to le yelo e bon e be yelo bonnal je demba sabali man kumandi ko for questioning adama ite fangolo ta janete ko iba jelal ko Lawyer Darboe fa fo yeta yo bade o kola la ite bina president ya sendile bina sendila ite man kumandi for questioning Lawyer Borry Touray wala nyenta kumandi la for questioning just because Lawyer Borry Touray min fo ali la moyan mi atine ko ye Lawyer Borry Touray kumandi woni ñun kumol mini fota jumala jarta questioning ali la moy ñeneen Lawyer Borry Touray la kuma kawati ñine mu Lawyer Borry Touray la kuma kawati baro mi yalan control na jamta 3 years la baro nata kate da no 3 years la aba 5 years la kala fo baro fo le ba futu dan tolti bang o baro kilingo 5 years akate da na woto o baro kilingo tata ko ate bitala 10 years la fo baro kilingo fo le ba futu dan tolti bang o baro kilingo na fo kote ko ate bitala 15 years la fo baro kilingo fo le ba futu dan tolti bang fo le tamu gambiati fo le sia dan tolti gambiati bang fo le gambia kan tolti bang Lawyer Borry Touray ala kuma kan feledi e koy kata Lawyer Borry Touray e kata kuma ni for nonsensical questioning nala adama mbe kuma kilim fole jang ni amira come like this is a mere talk o yaje ko a foolish guy is talking billahi ibe fongo dundila kam problème ko problème mo mi yalon ko sama sine motina lole fe adama ititani hakilo la bang Adam ititani hakilo la bang Adam itiba siri wo banko min fongo kan imu president di damin min terto nunje wo terto nunje le for 22 damn years sembeti je min ta buru wo banko kan ay sembo bel accumulate ya je me sembo min so banko kan a half fongo ita man futa je folo but yaya jammele bi Adam ite hakilo yelle ye sondo mo yelle ye karambang Yaya Jammeh bi abe siring Equatorial Guinea dami yalonko ani molle beje min yalonko fa me long ani ma wulu abe kideri je hana tara be mansono le santo bara be kideri je Adam ite karana bang Adam ite la godfather le Macky Sall le yemuna soto Gambia Macky Sall ma men soto Senegal Macky Sall le bi Adam ite tani hakilo la bang ye sondo mo yele ye dunia jube dunia kata nyamen ani membe kering dunia kono Adam ibe pusla bari ibe pusla fo ye dundi dinko kono ye saba ye bulaji ibe pusla ye saba fo ye dundi dinko kono ye bulaji Adam ite sondo mo yele la bang ye dunia ja kata nyamen Adam ite karanna ite ya mira ko ite be Gambia dingol intimidate la nole ya Gambia dingol silandi fo le da bondita la ko to le te bulete continuer ka president Adama ni ka sibo wolela tilibula sibo e ba wolela because ite Gambia dingol silandi no la ko tek Adama ite te Gambia dingol silandi no lo banko kan fa ite forget about you. There will be no president membi na obanko kang membe Gambia dingol intimidate la no fayati na ko Gambia dingol la right so movement e mo claim obanko kang o president na la Gambia banko kang membe Gambia dingol intimidate la fay Gambia dingol la right so movement e mo claim a president na la Gambia banko kang ko tek ya jamme Gambia dingol karandi wolale min keta ya jamme le jamano mole ya jame bula ye fa silandal ye fa fenkandal fo ya jame tata fa keta menti aketa woti Gambia dingol to chance di la mola koteke Gambia dingol to chance di la president na koteke not you. So Lawyer Borry Touray min yalon ko ika kumandi ko for this nonsensical questioning with your IGP, you better leave that man alone because even Lawyer Borry Touray min makanteng Adama Ibel Lawyer Borry Touray mem makanteng inila IGP alba kumandi kan you this nonsensical questioning min naten abe backfire le kan ni me hakilo to abe backfire le kan because like I said Gambians will not allow to be intimidated again in that country. Gambian ol te sonnale bajilal ko yetol be turtumbung but Gambian ol te sonna koteke moy nana membe lole asingolo ni le kan ke mota ke kasingo diki kang ite la right soul sotolano atakela banko kan kote Gambia ye kodi walale Adam in case you don't know Gambia dingol ye kodi walale don't try it ate watila don't try it kana fo ko be lola Gambia dingol la right soul kang wala ko be Gambia dingol intimidate la Adam ate watila ni a try Adama te watila ni a try ibe push kang iba fo telem president oti sembo be tele buru min diate sa keno adunta jena finta jena Adama be push kan ne Adama nya yele ibe push kan ne min kake Afrika itulo ka moyle inya kaje mollel fo generational fo tambita wala say comme ka fo ko be mol ibe mol intimidate la right soul kang ibe mol intimidate le fo wulu banko kang iman kairo so noji dunia la tambita wala sa tambita o generation lale tay mom mina mol kam munya wasi fal kan nte o generation ko say mol ba jilal ko ke ye faale doron bari le right soul ba make sure ko yo claim. Don't joke with people's right Adama hadama dingola jusu ja futata jele sign mbe generation o minto hadama dingola jusu ja futata jele ala right o ni ko ibe sila wo kan abajila rek ya faay ta kaburo kono barate sonda wala jutum na ya mo buka son wala ko tek sa ko refa wulu banko kan so Adam kana foybo o trial o banko kan ko tek kana foyba trial o banko kan because it's not going to work and it will backfire on you. I promise you that because I know that Gambians have changed. I know ko Gambian ol te sonna wala ko tek tarani o banko kan ko tek kasembo jay mol kan ifo wulu banko kan it's not going to happen again in that country Adam. Don't try it. Don't try it. Afuela nying IGP, la nying NPP IGP, and yo ila nying bitang miyalong ko wala mo IGP titang. Afay Lawyer Borry Touray, aya bulo bonda bala. Aya bulo fatal Lawyer Borry Touray ma. Because ni Lawyer Borry Touray me alka kumandi for nonsensical question in nateng. Abe backfire al kanede. Abe backfire al kanendung adamatine watila. Ate watila. Femfren nim bulo ba ko ate albe watila minike pousse je atinal watila because albe minna anin loi manta albe minna anin tilimbal yala bitakan albe minna anin intimidation bitakan And no, Gambians are not going to allow it, Adama. Gambians are not going to allow it. Niamira komete be mol silandila o banko kanne. Niamira komete be sembolo jayla mol kango banko kan. Niamira kuite be mol intimidate la o banko kanne. Mol etra sirin tek. Adama, get ready pour ka mo be forward. Get ready pour ka Gambia dingol be forward. Because Gambians are not going to allow it. Gambian te sonnala. Don't try it. Don't try it, Adama. Don't try it. Ye fontu ñu mol bulle be use kan. Be use kan. Nita mo modoti. Adama. Tenite yuka isi Gambia muta isi Gambi isi bonyum president ya kono ko suma ya ringo yeta yela Cairo enjoy. Bari be push kan dameng. Adama. Ibe push kan dameng. Allah bangotina nyala. Because ibe push kan ne ye push fo yete ne mol dundi nyola. Ndu ni ene mol dundi nyola. Atete la watila Adam. Atete la watila de. Atete la watila. Wassalam. Guys, nindamala munna kumoti bi nata minna jandro. Like I said, this live is not going to be long. It's just going to be briefed. Coming Adama Barrow nata jampurko wole diamundi because kibaro labina kanda mini aitende ko Lawyer Borry Touray ikawole kumani for questioning for nonsensical questioning. Dalilo kan dalilo miyalonko amanke fenti miyalonko ibafloko it is a threat amanka ku kan miyalonko ibafloko ay molen neng o ay kuma kan jawle fo o ay threat leke banko kan mini e threat ke banko kan ani mini kuma kan jawo fo banko kan adama anyaka so lo mume bela sidi nday minko ate molle lo miyalonko joran lel bol bulu e ka funti e ka tay ka mol threatin crime le tamita wol ite molje banko kan min yaga ko ka jorol sika kata ka mol tretin imanta yefa polisoli imanta polisol ko ne na mol arrest polisol mede ko mandi fo question le yo molje mintole ite ni wole nyolo mintole ite fon ye nyala wol kam mintole ye nyinin ka wo question la ye nyinin ka yo ye samba wo mol kan min yaga ko jorol de min lite minije polisol man sidi nday ko mandi wol dem ba sabale minko ate itol Adama Barrow la re-election wo jarete to len nin taro lam ye taro bon nin yelo la bi yelo bon alman demba sabale kuma ni fo question Adama Barrow fo da kono jang ako jannata be nyim president ya bula la ba jira Lawyer Darboe ye fa teta yo bade o kola nata bi nyim president ya sen la ya sendi Adama wan kon kuma ni fo question na nyumo sabol be ye very dangerous statement fo banko kanne imam kuma ni fo question na Lawyer Borry Touray minko fo Adama le ba futu don tol bati damma al kalka wol kuma for questioning ala try a try Adam a try iko ite karanna iko ite jela iko ite moyla iko ite karanna min tambita ite Adam ni te fomo moti mi ala ko hakilo warta bak Adam karam bunda man tambita la ya jambe ka kara ya jambe la damma karam bunda man tambiye wala but you refuse to learn bari if somebody ibule buli ye push fo ye dunde akono Ikmoka. Allah baraka bake, guys.
All right, good afternoon. Okay, you know. So just briefly, we're not here to stay long, but you know, we also don't want to constantly, you know, be completely away from the case that we're dealing with, which has to do with who killed the cops. So briefly, we just want to look at, you know, prosecutorial biases in the Gambia and, you know, they continued, you know, attempts of the regimes, not just this regime, but even the previous regimes. It's just like it's a historical fact on our, you know, jurisprudence that people just run a single narrative and use the single narrative to prosecute and incarcerate people on false pretense or lies that are masterminded by the same people that are prosecuting you. So what we want to, preface this conversation to is primarily not the police today, but the, justice ministry. So it's a known fact in the Gambia that upon investigation of every case, the police, probably not every case, but most cases, or as peculiar as the one that has to do with the killing of the cops, the police will investigate everything and send their investigation reports to the Ministry of Justice. Now, the Ministry of Justice would actually review those files and either the evidence or whatever that the police would have brought to them, and would recommend, for either prosecution or for whatever legal action that is to be taken. Now, if that is the process and that is the procedure that the police follow, let's put in this case, into perspective. Now, the Ministry of Justice, having all these lawyers, well-educated, unquestionable academic pedigrees, having followed from point 1 to Z, decided to take this matter to court. And it leaves one with one question. How, why, and who recommended for Usain Bojang's prosecution at the Ministry of Justice? Are they part of the criminal enterprise? Are they complicit in the crime? Are they part of the perpetrators of this crime? Because the whole point is that you got somebody. First, you told us that he wore a combat boot, and that combat boot did not fit him in court. But before we even get to the courts, first you said somebody killed 2 cops. You gave us 2 narratives, that Mama Jabi actually got the person and had recorded him on an audio. Second narrative is that the police used their codes to track this person from one point to another and got him. That is already 2 narrations that the police gave us. First, that of Mama getting him through, an audio that he recorded his confession. Second is the police that used codes that never existed. Now, with all of these 2 informations are enough for the Ministry of Justice to call the police to order to ask them clarity on this particular matter, but that did not happen. Now, the same police told us that Usain Bojang works at Brikama Area Council, is a member of the UDP, was at the Yankuba Darboe's court case in Banjul, was there with a gun, he is the guy in hoodie. And all of these things happened before going to court. What did the Justice Ministry do to verify all of these informations provided to the public by the police before recommending for this case to be taken to court? They told us that part of the money he was paid to kill was recovered, but no money is seen up till date. Why didn't the Justice Ministry confirm all of these information that were given to the public by the police and the government of the Gambia? That somebody picked the gun on the day of the incident, but decided that his boss told him to hide it somewhere and not to tell anybody, and then he will arrange for it to be picked up, but his boss was never picked up, the witness was never picked up, but these people has concealed this gun for 10 days. That actually led to the regime to say that it cannot be subjected to DNA because it was exposed to sunlight and, rain. But the Ministry of Justice that had made the recommendation to go to court, what report did you base that decision on? How did you get to the conclusion that this is a potential suspect and should be taken to court based on what evidence? There is complicity at the Ministry of Justice because it is the Ministry of Justice and their prosecutors that came to court and said that Mama Jabi's audio is in court. It is actually lost. Atol nintol tema. Allah do ko moment. Walanka tonyan in tilingo tamandi Gambian kolube tema, irrespective of the political divide they're coming from. But of course, prosecutorial biases alka nyineke to be supporting regimes fanyakang, tilimbaliakang, anintajidenteyaka. And the Ministry of Justice, through their prosecutors, came to court to lie to the court that Mama la audio filitala, but audio nying police Sola prosecutor and police, as an institution, has transcribed this audio over 3 times and realized that there is no single part of the audio where this boy talked about killing the cops. They decided to drop the audio. You came to court, you did not say, oh, we are dropping the audio because there is no evidence in it to this matter. But I'll not only fanya for the audio is lost. Why will the regime lie this much? Ninga tilimbaliaje nga fono ko nyumu tilimbalialti boy weex na weex boy ñuul na ne kuk wala mu duniati. But again, this same Ministry of Justice nga tolla moy wolung adama la mitin la kafo ko even the Minister of Justice will campaign for him. It's not that you are going to campaign for him, you have been campaigning for him and you have been doing all the dirty job for him when it comes to justice and the deliverance of justice in the country. Atoli fanya min lao sinu bojankang is enough to us this regime. Para ba dingolo? Yaje hada madongo nibe ko kela drong. Ise hakiloto. Atol nintol be mu Gambian ollati. Alaman karanti, alaman dunia lonti, alaman dunia tamanti, alaman dunia fahamunti. Atol ka mano manka mano malka atol hada madongo ollati ntol mu tole ollati. That you people can come and fabricate all your lies and then we will sit like the dumbest people in the world and accept it? When in reality, this regime is a kakistocratic regime ruled by the worst of our society. Ole be finti la kafo mole ko ha nyino mutonyate nyina mangetonyate. But nga meratol le control yoko. Usenu Bojang confessed to the killing of the cops and you got recordings of that. But be alaji be mimbe kering Gambia. Itolo ko Usenu Bojang mir record and what recordings be told bulan itoli o mutawala kang. What recordings latin itoli o recommendation okay to take this person to court. Itolo murunda court nke ko recordings wala filitale. But eti amra momi yalon ko you are a prosecutor of the state of the Republic of the Gambia. Gambia dingo be okusifa ko ne nyabe tonyala. Alka fania for court. Atoli la fita monala. Because the audio is lost. But now we have provided, because we cannot lose sight of all of this. And let me be clear, I personally provided the audio because I got it. We provided this audio, ning audio ya sambanang court to present it to court. You people vehemently try to condemn its admissibility. But I told you audio la balabulu senu ya foda menkatele police olo fa. Mone ati na tol ba balan na law audio ni sambanan na court. And no atol you audio filter la alia fani ya foko audio filter la audio man fil. Another audio fintin dale fanan ka sambanan la court kala audio fele jal ko senu boja foda menkay police olo fa. Al murunda ko dengal ko hani. Albe balamba ala ko audio ni manda present la to court. And now the court accepted the audio to be taken for transcription. Ya jalbe balango minna kotenge. Kafo ko ha audio nyunkono. Audio nyunkono musa balbe diamola je. Mama jabi. Alfu seni dari ani usenu boja. Me audio transcribe. Asafa ni momo be diamola raketo la keje karle nyimfo almunda nan kodo ngal ko hani. Audio nyunkono, it has to be in verbatim. Miya for mimma for bawo mantra audio to let the transcriber not speculate. I accept. I give you that. I'll talia transcribe in verbatim. Come back to court and let the court determine who said what. Because mingo miye min for moli olon. Ntolo nyama ma. Nko nyama made. To think that you will go and transcribe it in verbatim and bring it to court and the court will not know who said what and what. Moro wata kela jang. You will bring the transcription and of course that transcription will be brought to court and we will make sure that Usenu Bojang tells or you will replay the audio again in court and we determine who said what. Nyondonyo ay samba boy. Atoloma nyamentolti. We don't need to study law to actually to understand basics. Daliwa la fo luwa mesia la mesia mo tapale yaleti tapalele ka baran ntolla tilingo tonya ta mandola but yalong ntaka nyine for politician only because this case I told you I've seen people in my own community start to even talk shit. Few people who talk trash talk about me, kafo dole ko karla kala bula karajin fenke dula kafala tala ni ko dal kal ke bula mal mo le fe look nemo senu man dem bala na man dem fala na man bo korra killing na man bo kabila killing na man bo koñ killing I actually got involved in this because of my sister that recently passed away was his classmate, and he was coming to the hood to actually see her. And she was constantly calling me, Omar, you got to support Husseinu. Unfortunately, she was up and down mile 2 week in, week out, you know. Unfortunately, she passed. But the fact of the matter is that, why would you sit in our community to tell other people that, oh yeah, Moro, it's our collective responsibility to defend nothing but the truth. Husseinu does not need to come from the hood for me to defend the truth. Ani atara boda sate dol to ngalon ko be tilimbalian in tajinti ala tamande kaka ngamin fo bimbola folaje. Bara alon tol dam malla wulu danyoka nyolon kunda kon danyen ngata wodo. Abuka mo badande diam mesangola to go and do your NPP nonsensical politics. I'm not interested in it. But this case, there is nothing, absolutely nothing that you can do that we will not talk the truth. We will not speak our mind on it. You know what? But the fact of the matter is that after all of these things, the shoes did not fit. That actually tells about the Ministry of Justice incompetence. You said the audio is lost. That tells about the lies and deceit of the Ministry of Justice of the Gambia. President of Findidako, Minister from the Political Kela, that talks about your inconsistency and unrealistic arbitration of justice to the people of the Gambia. Ko alkalo be political Kela to lela, but I metale on them be kuti. Ole atin alkalo dolo buy because alkalo buka win ye. But ning Adam Baro Kate mo mota do kola or be nyantatela dala motalale. I see Jumale Walta do kola. Many along ko sun suluto le from a beje. Mo horoman tambalu. Many along ko invite TV platform to ask them basic questions on corruption and corruption scandals within the IEC. Ike from company for wulika for those are the people. Ndolnga mini miracle, they are the most just people that would actually arbitrate fair, free and fair elections in our country. Obeke no la nyadi. Momi ya lon ko itaman dola nafulo fon aisi la ko daro ko fon sunya ite amra wol ba election o dumala tamand la no to nyani tinonka. Or we think it's the older person who was there who left. No, probably he was too old. It was this guys Joe Kolilomba ni Moko Dongol. We are the ones running the show. Aisi la ko daro ko dunala personal account nyadi ite amra wol be tilingon tonya tamand la no election dumalto. Whereas we've heard the president saying every person he gives jobs to or appoint should actually hold on to Atela Toka. It's like playing football and the referee and his linesmen are all actually playing for the opponent team. Next year's election is going to be, penalties without a goalkeeper. But how would you have a goalkeeper? When the referee and his linesmen are all actually for the regime, sun suluto wala mundola IC the Gambia mini along ko man killing kodo la karola e amra olbe tilling na karela karola. So this is what the Gambians need to understand, that in this case you politicize it, we would legally fight it with you, and we will socially fight it with you, and of course we will politically fight it with you. Alman baraka moti nyimbanko ka altilmo ni tonya ta mandi alman nyon tanku ke nyimbanko ka mona na maminke albetil ngonin to nyala tamandela ha Gambia de mbele nyabe to nyala no falimo de mbele ngalon ko banko sula da wala lambe bitembo min to hani semente boto amanso to banko kan mo ko teme nyanta. And that is not because cemento mansoro dunia kon cemento ba foreign dunia kon, but it's because of their monopolies, because of their deliberate intent to monopolize the sector and of course give it to their own funders. Isaje welda maka balu ka kodo ka price or lafan Gambian kolo ka Gambian kolo tora, so that those monies will be used for their politics, and they bring those monies and circulate it back to the few people to get votes and continue to subjugate our people. Pomuntoma nabe funding kella a sembo bela a londo bebulu a fahamro bela a connection o bela a dajuko bela a contano fon bela, having the desire to serve the people to the best interest of our country, and we are trying to compare them to the most evil regime that ever existed. Adamu Mansula fengo fenna na manke atela palasot, and he doesn't care if you all die. This is the fact. And anybody within the regime who is supporting the regime, they are not after the interest of the collective good of this country. They are only after their individual positions. They are only after their own welfare. They are not in there for the common good of the Gambian people. No. I was in the way for 600 and some baba for 1,000. Go. Why do you have man board from man of my because of their monopolies and the deliberate intent to subjugate the Gambian people. You know, you go to the airport, you are forced to pay $20 for what? Because some evil people thought the government had no money or they had to manipulatively do things to continue to subjugate Gambians. And of course, we will always accept and start paying those monies. It's not ordinarily saying, oh no, let's accept this, let's accept that. No. Ni tol dal tammin naka kol Sonia ni Sonia tambir ngo akata man to raja wala simulma ni mansa kundala jow yarat mansa kundala bete mi yalon ko reka konko ni foire yani batal la fay la muluka en lam ko temina nyanda danna. And that is why I think every genuine Gambian should actually oppose this government to actually get out of office. Wala mto nyati nko atol lako useno bojang mu rebelolti you could not prove it. Atol Loko Useno Bojang works in Brikama Area Council. You could not prove it. Atol Loko, he had co-conspirators who actually provided him the escape vehicle. You could not prove it. Atol Murun Talkon told you he was the one in hoodie at the Yankuba Darboe case. You could not prove it. Atol Loko, you had an audio where this guy confessed to the killing. You said the audio is lost. We brought the audio to court. You are now fighting tooth and nail, you know, to prevent the admissibility of that audio. Nko Gambian ko wala saya muna tutajento lama mimfato le mi alon ko wala mutonyani ntilo ngota nyin case kono. What is left in this case that is not clear yet? When we can clearly see the government hiding at every possible, point. Moto min fango itolo ko wala museno bojanda moto wala mo fala la moto yara from police wala from tamo moto muna dal mo police arrest and wo police kido bo bulle. Why was that person not investigated and interrogated or probably prosecuted? But none of that happened. And will be that is how you people are so used to a single narrative prosecution and incarceration. And that is the policing and of course the criminal justice system of our country. And this is actually run by the Ministry of Justice, and this is where we think we have the best of people. Corruption it's not just Wakawa, it's not just your DPP, it's every other individual in that place. The single narrative prosecution in Tilimbalial Membeje. Some of you people from are part of the drug lords in our country. When law enforcers become the criminal drug lords, when law enforcers become people who actually fabricate scripts against people, when people who are actually there to arbitrate justice to people become the most unjust people in our society, what exactly do you expect from such a society? That society needs a total overhaul and of course a reset. And that is why we want to believe in a young dynamic leadership that will bring about that positive change and leadership to the country. Go. Along historically, if you look at it, Along Bigo is an Amanjanyo ni Mokotamol Mutale. Ibu so, Commissioner so, DIG so, Pate Jallo. Even the military is complicit in the killing of the cops because he told the offender that ballistic examination which is filled with lies and deceit. In Murunta Kwatanga, we have 3 military officers who said they were the ones at that scene and they were coming from Palmarima. At the same time, their call logs indicated that they were calling each other. The same people said they were running after the gunman and of course he was shooting at them, but they could see that he is turning to shoot at them, but they could not even tell if he wore a white or a red clothes. That tells a lot about the military. It's the same military folks that said, oh, well, we got battle sock. You got battle sock, but you're still running after a man who was actually shooting at you. One of the most feared and notorious criminals ever in the Gambian military is captured. Atolofanana lumbe lungolo konole. Ate baila muku. Yaga degarek mo wur. Asa mi nyawo nyato nyala belabanna. Mineka mol fanu ko kamera ko sieling on insi sieringol. Bi wolale. But again, that tells about the regime's complicity in all of that, because you had never had any interest in prosecuting all of these people, because you never did anything. Al-Mahani attempt killing to actually get those people. It's other countries and of course, you know, Senegal and other people who probably would do whatever they can to get them, but it's never the government of the Gambia. Because Ning Ayata Dako Tonya Tonya, looking at this case with Jammeh, Minkaleko is coming to the Gambia. It should be in the interest of the government of the Gambia to send a passport to him to say, come quickly. Because in Tolofon Besula Ritalala, because Kujamal Lekada Jamini Alonko, you definitely need to come and clarify or probably go face justice. But you all started shouting, no, I see you, Purumu. Atol ko momi mo jël famo la banko kan be kere jatul man taw kam makana otilini ni silo ni tonyala. That should be the priority, because you said you were going to deliver justice in those cases, and what did you do? You now want him to just sit there so you can continue to loot. But ni aja fanan tonya tamala je momi yaron ka ko ni solo wafu kemelulu la 900 ni ku ko tangol la o manke masa ku na tilindi. Gambia be den dafa ngom na peme mu ko ni solo woni si baratol ko wafu 900 la o mu tonyal. But before we actually talk about that, for ying Adam Barola manta, Kanila, Jammeh could come back in. You see, when these people need votes, akajari ye kuobella. Wala nyinde ko manke tonya multi, manke tonya masa kundati. They are not people to be trusted because they don't believe in anything. Masa kundama la fengo fenna. Na manke into la kunkili na falti drum. And anything that comes between them and that dunalen jara luneka. Kado kunung ite mimbe keta jang everything we've heard. Ite wuli ita for ya jamela korra kono fon trying to celebrate that person foka wala na ko ite mu from cult. It's not good to repeat those words, but what he said basically makes a lot of sense, because nita manke what in your right mind would you think about going to Kanilai trying to say, hey, Jammeh is a Gambian, he could come here and there. And now he said he's coming. He said, ate alo ne mansa sembo minde sembe tetela. Senegal le kete protect. Kete alo noko sembe tetela. Ela mansa kunda kurungo letini ya jamela mansa kunda manfata. Kara to le police ul falme fa fenna fo UDP ngani ya joya. Moro yaje, when people do things, it's a UDP konyaonya. It's a kanyang. And then you use your brain. Adama di yafa nambe wala nyama. Adama UDP dunia fengo bele kete. Ni UDP ya kata momo ye Gambia ya kata ominkete make mokote. And then for you keep claiming that, oh no, yende sacrifice Adamadi. UDP picked you at the perfected time. And then I often tell people that the removal of Jammeh was not just a single act of an individual or a group. It was a combination of a perfection of factors. And at that point, you are the list on the list to be picked. Yet, UDP did everything they could for the least person to be picked. Even though most people were not happy about it. But they did everything humanly possible to make sure you are picked. You were picked. Fortunately, you became president. But man jowianing hasidianing konanteatili mulla mintambira UDP. And that should define who you are. UDP did everything through a coalition to bring you to power. They, of course, through some actions kind of betrayed or negated that line, and then you actually went on to betray every other person and bring the people that were subjugating this country as your biggest allies, and they are now the masterminds and the controllers of your regime. But Adama fuela mansa kunda sita fuefuda tembo do falia police lo fa kamurun ko tenge ka wala UDP gang no ngajo yalo na barne na malon ko Adama mo fana sa foto so ko mon min yalon ko le kato belekete to make you where you are. When ni mo wol jono ni nyala kana konante ya njo ya ni fisiri walle ya mimbe dandin ten ko teli wala la. You know mtonyati. Some of them would come to me and say, oh, don't talk about UDP. You said you support United Movement. Look, UDP is an institution. It's not owned by any individual. When we talk about the truth, we talk about the truth. I don't really care who it favors and who it doesn't. But what I believe in is what I believe in. Moro Mansakunda among Korea minta Mansakunda mi yalonko it monopolizes the entire cement sector to give it to one single individual, and this individual more or less is a founder of the regime. So wala nyindi ko it will be kodo so le family nyamin drong iman kea Gambian la batadala. Ole atin ne tollo control ko sen wedo ko la brikama area council la UDP ko la mata be UDP la court case but the min fan kan yim fam fon ni mo police le police kuntiol am yanko la nga nyaaya la no nyaay to nyaaje nembodo wodo you go to the National Assembly min ya lon ko kan la sarali la fa ko tank billahi wallahi Gambia nas aman National Assembly mol so min jowyata National Assembly member the min tambita this past two legislatures we have ever had min bota je waliya minke walka na lan la taka talay da malu tema nyindolo nata e ko clothing allowance la di fangola e paradol di fangola e bota je ko e ka credit allowance o di fangola e ka essence allowance o di fangola e ke la salary la fa e bota je ko this ya ko den ke ba la fa la ko den and e ka wala farol min be and they claim that they are the ones who are paying part of the parado. All the money is coming from the taxpayer because nyine ko do wonne mun dole dolu be kono kunun wol je taxi driving la jam Gambiano la ka mo furu mo barakande amurun ko den ga konnante yan tilimbal ya tilingila Gambiano lo mam fude. Those you can deceive are those who are actually into your politics. But many nyabe tonya la yalon ko tilingon in tonya be daming. Many yalon ko luolung woli yalon ne kila dimbal samba nyami. Woli yalon ne tonya be daming. Woli yalon no ko nyummanke Mansakunda kenende. Woli yalon no ko almantra tonya ne tilingon kan. Woli yalon no ko this government is built on lies, deceit and manipulation. But funding ayatara ko mitol la mona fangol lebe jede. Bare ning ala tema ko tonya ne tilingon itol yalon no ko tilimbal yala be Mansakunda. Kadu mo kilingo mi yalon ko ite mom baraka hani dulado ning Gambian ko le mo wuli ka carte fayde kete ke fendi ite murun ko den kete ko alkatol la salary la lafa ali loi fo da ka ko mom mo yatol nen atol sol sorong bar natol ye mol nen kuta bolaje. What kind of an animal farm is this? What kind of a regime is this? Alinya bala molbe ni sol wafula 900 nin ku koton wala le fengol the former president's bagaso come in for molla land. You even took our lands and of course shared it among yourself, the ministers. So atoli muneke in the deliverance of justice for the people of the Gambia. What attempts have you done to see the perpetrators of heinous crime? If I see people celebrate sana manjang nyolla muto onko sana manjang nyolla boss nyol wala meta Gambia le be siri be tenkunding kumanke je kese mambo jabato. Minisita nibe nyati li nyole kabo ko ndanga mo minanga mo fa siata. Nyabela, they are sitting in our communities. We have seen other perpetrators of some of these crimes. Mini alonko eni Mansakunda le bulo do nyobulu. Ngamole jale yo Mansakunda la jalol wala mni Mansakunda la jalol tibi. O Mansakunda la baramal wala mni Mansakunda la baramal tibi. Oda mana falenta nyumbanko ka. Muna falenta nyumbanko ka. So my focus has always been who killed the cops. Why would you format your prime suspect's telephone? And that all your telephone all used to track this particular person. When you find yala sort of the Gambia. Kollo mobe tulo bala. And we've seen other cases here. On this case, if you look at it, Oseno being so innocent, every other day, his family need to bring them food because another sister belebeje. Let's say at least these people spend to and fro every day to bring lunch to their people, at least $200. Almost 2 years sign. If you calculate that $200 is every day, 365 days is about $73,000. Right? Moro yola nyokang, in 2 years, that's about, $146,000. With a struggling family, where will they get $146,000? Let's say $150,000. Atara domoro fonga depanso ni kukota mambona okon. Ale wandi dimbal tora. Ale dundi mantoro kono. Albe mantora kan hanfo bi. Gambia, more than 2.5 million people sitting and looking at outright injustice, and everybody thinks that it's okay. Nothing should be said about it.
And I've seen people of my own community, when the folks actually took their, Yamorota, Purkatanki, Lakata News, and Lokontolube, Feel of funding killing, Ekalamtaland, and we are not really, with the people who feel that, they could just subjugate you anyhow. Killing Kinolga, Cable, and Malmolofi. If they come to you to say that kind of bullshit, just give them my number. Let them call me and tell me that. But because of your political desires, because of your political selfishness, because of your simple little things, that cheeky change that you're getting from the NPP, iman tonya from fasano me de o kan feka from modole ko karla kalbulanya mobo mobula la alfal mini alonko is yard and ni ke long probably knows how this world works way more than I do. You think I could actually influence people to say what? To go and see Hussein is a crime? Ngo Tuesday mirala ngara faje ko denge na be kela ko denge miranga faje for lung na be ban, and we hope that the judge, just like you did in Yankuba Darboe's case, when delivering that judgment, you will televise it, that the whole world know that the government of the Gambia is complicit in the killing of the cops, and came out to vehemently lie about the killing of the cops, including the Ministry of Justice and in the entire security apparatus, because military actually lied about the ballistic examination and there are 3 officers who were involved. The police lied about everything and of course tried to put it on the United Democratic Party. And Sankare as the government spokesperson, what Alan Natambidal. Well, I didn't know model Jibe Kumakalandanga for like, Peter is a veteran journalist. I don't give 2x to that. The government utilizes Peter's radio to spew out their garbage and fabricate their script against Hussein Obojang, and everybody was listening to it. And now for that somebody was actually texting to say that this person should not even be prosecuted. They should investigate him and of course go and kill him by hanging. And Peter had the guts and the audacity to read that text on his radio on a matter that is not even before the court yet. That is professionalism for you. That you are injecting that anger in the minds of Gambians, already vilifying this person as if he is the murderer, that of course he should not even be prosecuted, he should not be taken to court. People should just, a quick number of folks should just go and investigate him, just like they did with their lies and deceit and their manipulation, and of course he should just be taken to a public space and of course be killed by hanging. Peter, sumako wahon sa dom, dunalania. And I've seen a couple of people jump now, no, yo, warulo, wahdara, and they try to ethnicize it, thinking that, oh, I was referring to Peter as an individual, and then they want to make it look like I was talking to, oh yeah, yo, warulo, wahnjago, dara. I haven't a few people that came with that nonsense, I put you right on your spot. Na peting pujakuma, na pek banyaka chimanjako, na pete pujakuma, indi pebu kame ubarare te uchinati, indi pebu kumpu meneka gusuko kanchikete Gambia thing, but you see Uraju Peter Gomez to spew that nonsense. And you all were listening to it and you know what exactly was happening. If I use my radio to actually be transmitting informations like that, and to a point that I cannot even filter the kind of messages I'll be reading messages that actually are suggesting go and actually, tie this guy on a rope and of course kill him by hanging. When in reality, the person did not even go under any legal, procedures yet. Should that be a message that a responsible journalist be reading on your radio? Almam Dawala, Sankare came back after being superior to court and then sat with Peter Gomez and castigating the same court, saying that, of course, their language is, discourteous. That means the superior language of the court is rude. And they were laughing out loud about it when 2 cops were being killed. And your own radio is being used to actually spew nonsense about that same case. And a few of you who think that it's about ethnicity. One of the boys killed 4 manka manjakot. There's a few individuals who basically do not know anything about life. They will just jump. They don't even know you. They just see you. They think they could just come with their sentimental judgments on people, trying to tell, oh, you cannot say. Look, if I have an issue with an individual, I deal with it decisively that way. Go and worship them. I don't do that. I don't worship human. And if they are too old to be told the truth, go and deal with that, because nobody is older than the truth when it comes to me. I don't care about what you think about me. At the end of the day, you don't even know how they actually grow up in my mouth. So you know mimbe sodoring. Ning ayatara biyete do mala muta fanyakang. Ebe wulia sifa bela lakang. Ntanga na radio ta to be spewing that information, trying to convince the masses, because this case has taken different dynamics. First, they wanted to convince the people that Ousainou Bojang, of course, did it. And of course, he was a member of the UDP. What medium did they use? They used Peter Gomez radio to actually filter that information, making it look like it's the UDP that is behind the guy. It's the UDP that killed the cops. Of course, he works in Brikama Area Council. He is a rebel. Adunta Jaborajan. Molo Murunta Yara Fanny and the Waka Yara subpoena to court. You came back to the same radio, caricaturing the court's language that it used to subpoena some of you, and of course went back to the same radio that you were actually, reading those texts that were actually suggesting to kill this particular person. You've already hanged him, right? Why cooking also alone? Yalla banyut ken tenya plafi nekal. Degarek moy mujé. Ñenom ko dem be sodoring. Adama la mansa kundale ya long jumale police olofa. Adama la mansa kundale ya long munati ne fanyafo ka voko Ousainou Bojang do ko la Brikama Area Council. Adama la mansa kundale ya long munati ne ko mama la audio filitale. Adama la mansa kundale ya long munati na beat tumo ebe keloke kampuru ka ko ni audio kana admit in court. Adama la mansa kundale ya long munati ne ko hani tol fon kana sa fenyi audio bala. But Adama la mansa kundala kontrole ko audio so la mi ya long ko Ousainou Bojang na fo ka tele police olofa. Adama la mansa kundala ko kido nyinga jetale bara lungo minna jeta ma pick wolungo ya pick after 10 days. Why did it take the police 10 days to pick a gun that was picked? Adama la mansa kundala kontrole ko Ousainou wear combat boot, but of course the combat boot did not fit him in court. Adama la mansa kundala kontrole ko a part of the money he was paid was recovered, but no money was ever seen. Adama la mansa kundala kontrole ko they used codes to actually get the person, but none of those codes were actually provided when they were asked to provide them. Adama la mansa kundala kontrole ko they got 3 military witnesses who were coming together from one point to another, but they were also calling each other at the same time. It only control bystanders and of course witnesses are the people who said that moto mimbelori nyim moto ni number plate car Ousainou Bojang na tamo bara yara from police ole tamo de mi yalan ko kido la babulo. What kind of proper investigations was done in this case? That a file was submitted to justice and for justice to recommend for prosecution, for the same justice to come to court and lie. So what a Gambia jumala be jikela ko to nyan ntiri be tamala wodo. Who is going to rely on such a justice system run by criminals, including the justice minister himself? Whatever we do with it is for our own good. But Gambians need to understand that this regime is built on lies and deceit. And the worst of people are the ones running this government. Because people who are fighting each other within, you think those people have any time to talk about or to think about the welfare of Gambians? No, they don't. This is what we all need to understand and of course need to work on. So to the few people that actually took the time to go visit Ousainou and of course spending time to talk to the dude, I've known a lot of people went there Friday to see him. You know, Masate di yadi. Ninya etonya fasan. Kata mojibe mi alonko. Even if he was rightly put in prison. Kata mojibe mi alonko is in prison. It's just like going to see somebody in a hospital bed. Because it gives them a better morale, of course, gives them a better feeling that, of course, Mobe me bonto. For me, the person that got me into this whole talk passed away. That's live, and of course, at some point we will all die. But until the end of this case, don't you learn from my tarfatal ayn. Yeah. And we will focus on this towards the end because it's almost the end of it. By the end of it, we will get into the politics proper of it. And you know what? We don't care what one or two things. The whole point is that ining mol katara sir nalka horomo nimbunya la dinyo bara manka ko mosila da mol la jam. And amanka fananko people speak because they just want to speak. No. Wana namanta jenyi politics ku fanko la bara sila. Be a politician already because our lives and decisions entirely depend on it. Semente manko member Gambia depends on political decisions. Baluo dabe kolea minna, it depends on political decisions. The deliberate removal of the Auditor General speaks to nothing but absolute corruption in the regime. And those are political decisions. So when people tell you don't get into politics in your cause, you know, you have a career ahead of you. My brother, even your career is dependent on political decisions, because the level of education you get and of course the kind of job you get and probably the life you live is dependent on politics and political decisions. So if you leave the worst of society to be making those decisions on your behalf, then you realize that of course you failed in your own, path. You know mutonyati. Potal nga tonya la fasan no. Mbe tonya la fasala nga ngad tonya fonno. In our communities, wherever one is, you definitely got to be honest to yourself. Or put yourself in that position today. Let's say Nathara BBB. I wouldn't even get to say what exactly happened. But let's say, amibo jamii alonko, aliala dimbale be charindi. Fentem fale fanyami lakan. Dindi ngolo babulu. Dindi merango babulu mi alonko was less than 2, like momi alonko aba dindi ngo mi susu nikali was samba jail for over 2 years. Wa dindi ngo ba menkang abako mamala ba minki. The trauma that you've imposed on those people is everlasting. What about? Ale trauma mila is going to be a lifelong thing. But just for the entire nation to be quiet about something, we all know that something did not go right here. But again, how are you actually going to give those people a stable mind going forward? Atoli wala dunia la betinya, alma tinya fenna fala politiko nin konante ya ninjoya. But we have people in society who would see all those things and still act like they are deaf and dumb and they don't want to say anything about it. But they will not even shut up, but they will vilify people who choose to say something is not right in here. Who in Mile 2 prisons, who works there, would tell me that Usain Bojan killed the cops? Who in the government machinery will now open their lid and say Usain Bojan killed the cops? Including that so-called journalist for VM Tarawale Lomba. Moro, we are not taking you to any media council or whatever. Some of you need to pay the price for your evil and wickedness and your outright stupidity. Karidara Sila, you go and fabricate an entire script. Usain Bojan ne police ulfa a confess tale, and then you put in an insert where only Mama is talking and you did not hear Usain Bojan talking. Fanyala tambida wala. Moro, ni mo sida o fabrication sifa ka wala eta kang. How would you actually feel? I sent you a message about it, you ignored it. You can ignore it, but when we meet in court, you will pay for the price of your stupidity. Then you will know what happens. Because tilimbalyan in joyan in hasidia mantambinyina. How could you even get to a conclusion that he killed the cops? And then you made a whole video about that and then, of course, concluded it. Finally, that, of course, yes, he confessed to the killing and, of course, he is the murderer. How, bro? How? And if you realize that that was a mistake, you cannot even come out to apologize. When people reach out to you, acting like you are ignoring them. Moro. Yalo ikata police letter come airport de ko kulubali atilele to le balo ferinte den kulubali atete tinyate han banna sal benekino fo man to ni tesi yen dangen sohor dangen bon dangen inyan. Or you think because you need followers on the social media you could just go and be lying against people? Ite man fahami man journalist yano e meke ko fongolo ite jump don ka ko Hausen Bojan ne police ulfa telephone ka police ulfa, and then you made a whole story about that be wulia be falfania. Imam Maliman said, instead of even having the remorse to apologize for it, you're trying to show that you got ego. The young man will come out, sue some of you for defamation. Probably when you are being asked to pay millions. Then you be found on the world, some of you got to pay the price of your outright stupidity. Because Tilimbaliaman Tambiwala. Tilimbalian in Konantean in Joyaman Taminina. You know, I used to believe that back then, you know, it was until around 2017, 18, we were studying in Southeast Asia. No boy, long he was doing civil engineering. So at the time, I used to think that Gambians don't do bad. So Gambia, boy, I want a foreigner lamaning. You kind of sound very xenophobic or whatever. You think Gambians don't do bad? I'm like, boy, Gambia went to look and kusi falke come in sunyar jawol ninyu mo fa fenkol. When you locate among Gambian or Latin. Probably you just grow up in the fringes of Bruford and the people that you see are your relatives and your families and they try to put you through and all of that. But if you have an extended understanding of Gambian society, kwanya moro mo kurungola mantamintola modulla. And then you know mutonyati. Mo jawol dolo fana mantamintola modulla, including this VM tarawale ni mo kotamalo. It's understandable if people make mistakes. You say, Amoro, maybe this is, you know, he's still learning to be a better journalist and he could just apologize. You could not even apologize for what you said. And you went out there to just fabricate scripts against somebody and turn around and act like, oh, you know, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not going to apologize to nobody. You know, it's probably your right. Moral rights goes with responsibilities. When the dude come out, some of you people, we basically got to pay the bigger price of your stupidity in court. And nothing will stop that. Don't even see these things as, you know, somebody is trying to threaten some of you. No. Mora jarda minna purka wulialaka. Abe jarla nya wala to sue some of you to court for defamation, and of course you pay the price of your stupidity. Abe olukono, you look at, you know, those NPP talks. Along kabirin yung kuwa keta. Imagine presidential advisors jumping to write statements like trying to associate it to a particular political party, specifically the UDP. Amantil killing si dorong ibe murunda kela saferul be delete. Tabiri yalong ko moro kula manta ko jan kela saferul be delete. Moro ali delete nyawo nyale mini safengolu lonne. Some of you might be lucky that those first 2 days we did not actually get screenshot of some of what you wrote, because I only got involved in this case I think after a week or two later, because my sister was constantly asking and I had to take my time to actually examine things. Moro ndabuka jump doron because nga karalo na nabora sare kilina to defend you. Ninga ko tonya re moro nyim kan intilon tonya manta. Moro, if I cannot encourage you to face it, you know, justly, I would just shut up. But I will not come out to defend an unjust cause. But after examining the facts around the case, after listening to Sankare ngalo na konta nga useno min law man kere belt, nga useno min law buka duko ke Brikama area council, nga useno min law what tala UDP la court case to in Bandul, what kula manta kujang. And after putting one and one together, we realized that of course something fundamentally went wrong here, and that is only through their own narrations. Oto tolla e fango dundi kado ni man kuke kute kang mune bebula la fanya fola kuto mi yalon ko man kulonje. But Adam Balola Masakundale allow me a police olufa. So Badangol, we don't intend to stay too long. You know, it's a bit rainy out here. So I'll just call it at that. But the fact is that itoloko itoli audio lo mama kate audio lo sura usini bojan record la confess to daming. Mama anata kota ko audio nyim filitale. But mama afangola sim kato president bari ni wala tamwoti. Mama kabiri man kajamba interview president wala kordala kono. President wala murunta kota nke Gambia mansa kundala na fulo minta ta for $1 million killing. Ya di mama jabela. Kato ka tele usini bojan muta te record. But itole murunta kota nke ko recording si wo filitale. But wo fili nyafa na inara fani afula foje. Mama kate ala sim kato la bondala telephone kono. Ala WhatsApp delete. But DPP mi ala ko wala director of public prosecution. Woko mama la telefono la tinyata. Telefono la tinya aninga na sim card la bondi wala man killing. E bota wata ko den tolo murunda ko den nga audio nyim fango di fango la kadu la audio nyim was circulated all over the country. But audio nyim you got to listen to it carefully to understand the manipulation of mama ning you know alfa seni dari. Wale atina mo follow me ni yela moyala tolo me yela moyala ning hakilo le yela moyala droga moro nyine nyinke. But when you go back, you sit, you listen to it consciously, you understand that something did not go right here. Kabiri masakundaya transcribe over 3 times, they realize ko moro tonya ninga nyimuta nyina la da wata kuta mbulu. Emurunte inata ko renge fanyafo ko audio nyim filitala baran tolonga audio sambana ali court alko audio nyim almalla fal nga mana tolle ko audio lat na tolle usenu bojamuta. We brought your own audio to you in court. You want to vehemently deny its admissibility. But Jojo nyama madi. Hana nyama tafanankain tolo nyama madi. The public will make sure there is justice in this case. And we will never shy away from that. And we will not negate that responsibility to ensure that our brother gets justice. And even if he was not, any person who is involved in such demands and deserves justice. Ali audio soro audio fele sa ko audio da pile la court. Audio pile ta court mo be ya lamoy. Mo be ya lon ko ndesan. Atol jow yata bakela man der no malon ko hada man mo fanka hada man mo jow yata ting man. Fonni ke mere ngaman ku kala ali ala life be tinya man. Ali ala dimbala life be tinya. Ala sister na ding wala ali ala life be damage ali be tinya fenten falla politiko nin konante ya nin jow ya. And this is all the Ministry of Justice and the police and the criminal justice system of the Gambia that is sick to the core. And this audio is now returned for transcription to remove the names of the persons. But nobody can manipulate this case at this level. And of course, we hope that the judgments will come out soon and will be publicized. And probably, you know, Yankuba Darboe, if we are making the judgment for this case, make sure that you televise it for the entire nation to know the complicity of the regime and all the lies they have said, because not even a single person among all their, you know, witnesses was credible, except the person who said, ntalanga chika motorcycle oladi kabonye ndula kare katanyo ndula kare wofana ni aje fon okay noda etolla modotiyo min katale ami bojam bonne na yunduma samba brufud bonde brufud samba fo brikama bonde brikama samba daslama kate o bakery within 30 minutes and ata fudara daslama midnight the same day of the incident. And then motorcycle tiyo nara usenota motorcycle tiyo den kabiru onara koda ko so mo tilebulo la de usenota ita ko motorcycle tiyo at around 12 midnight motorcycle tiyo ko atara the next day in the afternoon. And the facts are that Usenu did not even go to Casamas that night. Usenu left the next day in the during the day of the next day. So in the next day ita ko ite was sambo suto ite jumala sambo suto ko wolbe jola kam fola fo kabiri futa da faro kumo fola wol nato fonin kanete mi moy onyom fan yala be kering kavoko Usenu bojanko police wala kante ko kana dumbri kama garaso kono purate mo odo police jumala wote. Where is that police officer that actually told Usenu not to go into the garage? You see all the lies and fabrications. But Kabir would drive will be along. Why did he still proceed with people that have confessed to killing somebody? Man analmo drive for aiding and abetting a criminal. Albuka diamu nyama to liede. Arbadi ngol diamu lobe jamfakang. Kaya mbe oppositional kono to diala Gambia. Min kumara dromo be ajoko adama na masakunda e boy tilingo ni ntonya e tama Gambia constitution kuto esoto mo kana lo masiala min tambira sanje tanna Gambia. We build strong institutions that are basically to serve the common interests of the Gambian people. TRRC F9 Constitutional Review Commission F9 Faraba Commission F9 Lands Commission F9. Adama, who was supposed to be a reforms president, had reformed nothing. Now manke to continue to perpetuate those evils and continue to manipulate and of course lead corruption and corruption scandals in the Gambia. Nyama Sakunda is only known for one thing, corruption and nothing but corruption. You know mukudi. Aning famako yo. Kadu hani na National Assembly member ninga karte fa ye kata min fenga wala nyendo ko it will be have to animal sanne fa wala nyaming odo karte fa lalo ala nga jibe no de nga mbe ko kan ene fere tara e mulla ko do beti nya ko to tara nationwide to like buka fem fo formal fa wala on what needs to happen. And then you see their ministers contradicting each other kuma kalantam fo mon min yalon ko to ikoitol dol ba fala ko nga tractor ta woro wala di dol ba fala nga kemenen ta woro di atara dum nyen le kata ka tractor ta famal bulu ka sisi bulu ka falol nim fal fal kare sol dira. That is the agriculture you want us to do. But that only happens when you have a community knows as your agriculture minister. That tells you a lot about how this government does not care about the well-being of people. Bantol lokombo tundo kan datol le alo mimbe kere naje. Meneka bula adama no mada toli ala noko to nyani ntilingo mantra adama la masakunda kamol ke do baltim fangol la satel kon kamol la bungolo boy kamol taradula la boy atara dong imanke na satel dinti mambon na satel lo kan na bankol fama talay da malu tema go to Bruford Heights, you seize lands that you said Jammeh had seized, and of course you came back again to share it among your ministers tilimbali ala tamita wala That is why I often tell people that all this nonsense thing of TDA is a land dispossession mechanism against the people of Congo. Let them go and do TDA in Mankamankunda. Mankamankunda man TDA so. Let them do decentralized development and take the development all over the country and go to other places and put TDAs there. Baraka molo bayina dulaldo ka mola bankolta molo bulka di fangolula. Itolle baraka dan tolti because itolle be mansakunda. Hey, komonkola la nyaayele. Let them say it's regionalism. Let me preach it, but we cannot continue to vote for Samba boyo hamantene dañ fogg na ñu gëna mus to come and even subjugate our people in our own communities. These are things that we got to talk about. We got to tell the truth to people. Molka bonela sadel do kana kan tol tilimbali na sadel kana mol muta kana mol sorong faniakang. To even use our own people against us to tell us that no ala fo karñol yede pour mo anu mbe nyaabe to nyalam fangol la sadel kon kana alkalo lo bay because go to wuling kama yaji be wala alkalo wala min no brufut nin to law dandan na sadel. I remember when I was a little boy wolka bladi mol la for just bena 300 o kuro damma but wala mo jamala suduran to law sadel kon. They gave them land, they gave them what they are celebrating today. Wale taraduladi, wale dinkraldi, wale nila dimbayal sudura. But because the regime does not win there, atol kalbe wala alkalo bondalbe mulla kele jemini alonko, wale diata atolye. And then the entire community is sitting and looking at that. They dobi jenna mulla kuwa fankande jakalle. Moli nyabe tonyala. Tonya ki detalde. Nyawe ka karka mulla sade mol doyala, but nyino mu tonyati. When the Kabilo of Yankunda were always new with a lot of funding to make sure that that place it has become what it became today. Where was Adama Barrow? Kabiri Wolko was Sare Lokadi Kamol command to even give them free land. Where was Adama Barrow at the time? Sade min lo wadi mere tara ikeda fenti. Ite Walter yela sade lo fo sade futata bitem tomorrow mini wollo woli kato menke wodla ita malo woli ofeng ite na ita ko ite la bol bondi ite modol la kala je because of your political interest sade bebe deri mol nyabe to nyara na manke konnante yani hasidi yani nyojo wiade moro al nga to nya fa sanno aka ko ada me mol la silo danko kana ada mala ko ada la ko dol la fo dana ga president wada sila jumal dada Why sila kodomi alon ke tulunta ala fon ya tinya ka dia de nyami aboko kare silo da wala nanyanda carte file ala man tankalala ala ngato nya fasanno Masakunda should be continuity and it should be for the collective progress of everyone but not to victimize people on the basis of your political interest innom ko de minyanta danna la tonya la fola ngabara tonya la me one thing kay mom we will make ourselves laughing stocks. This regime has got to go because it has no respect for people. So Bruford should be one example of telling this regime to get off. Because that is an injustice against an entire community. That is an injustice against an entire nation. And then you look at people who said they are women rights defenders. You see Ami Bojang Miyalong Kamani Kuke Mola. I'll be there in tech. You see people who jump and say, oh no, they are human rights defenders, but you've seen the utter disrespect and disregard to human rights when it comes to Ami Bojang and Usainu Bojang, but they are all quiet. But I'm going to find out more than Sobela Manala Yunkukon. Kabiri Usainu Mutafoloke. Ikabulo handcuff Lenika court. At gunpoint, several guns around this young man. Now see no long, boy ending among kukala be loring, ni military lia be surrounding Beni la kidol, alia bulo handcuff alkalko samba court le beatilo, eka useni jakata court musu killing honey pistol in the front table wala katara koma. Mko tonya dorana kalabang. Muna nalmo soldier will be finding Nanjani la kidol alia bulo handcuff to go to court because he's a murderer. But often be kono aliala denko na la kurro be wurala altara denka do nyin na mi yalan ko nyamo be duroring abala because what did you want? You actually wanted to paint a picture that this is a criminal to the minds of the people, but people who have sense can reason, and that is why you utilize Peter Gomez radio to spew all your hate, disgust and lies against this young man. Ala bembele ala matiloto di ala bani